Hi, my name is Jennifer Hancock and I'm the Christian County 4-H educator. Today, I'm going to show you how to embroider note cards. For today's activity, you will need blank cardstock, or what I like to use are blank craft greeting cards, thumbtacks. What I like to use, I found these big giant ones that are really easy to fit in my hands, but you can use these little ones also, a pencil with an eraser, traceable shapes such as cookie cutters, or you can print things off from the internet, embroidery floss, embroidery needles. If you don't have embroidery needles, sewing needles work just fine, but embroidery needles, if you're going to buy some, I highly recommend finding some with the blunt tip. You'll need scissors, cardboard, and if you want to jazz your cards up at the end, you can always jazz them up with some crayons or watercolors. Step 2, take out your cardstock and place it in front of you. I chose to do a star today, and I'm going to use the star cookie cutter. Now, whether you are using a cookie cutter or you're going to draw on your card for your shape, you're going to want to do it on the right side of your paper because at the end it's going to open like a card. So take your cookie cutter, lay it on the right side, take your pencil, and trace your cookie cutter lightly. All right, there you have your stencil for your embroidery. Now, before you move on to step 3, which is making holes for the thread for your embroidery to go through, you need to put some cardboard underneath your cardstock so you don't damage your workspace. Now, take your thumbtacks and make a hole at each corner and at all of the places where 2 lines meet. Depending on your chosen shape and your embroidery skill level, you might be done making holes on your first embroidery project. Now remember, the more holes you put, the more difficult your project is going to be, the more time it's going to take to finish, and the more embroidery floss it's going to take to fill your pattern. All right, now let's put this to the side and let's get our embroidery floss out for step 4. Your embroidery floss might look like a long skinny hot dog. That's okay. You're going to take some of your floss, and it doesn't have to be exact, but take a long piece, a pretty good size, maybe 26-30 inches long. That looks good. Next, you'll notice when you look closely, your floss is actually made up of 6 individual strands. What you need to do is separate that floss into 2 strands each. And this part can get a little tricky, but if you go slow, you won't get a knot. Now that you've separated your embroidery floss into 2 strands, it's time to thread your needle. To do this, you're going to fold that one long strand in half, just like this. And when they meet, it now looks like you have 4 strands. take your needle. I like these needles. They have a rounded tip and a large eye, so I don't have to fuss very much with getting that embroidery floss through that eye. Now, you should have a loop at the end of your needle to make your flap knot for the next step. Now you're ready to start embroidering. So for step number 6, get your card and you're going to need to make a flat knot to keep your embroidery floss in place and to make it look pretty on the other side. To do this, pick your starting point. Mine's a star, so it doesn't really matter where I start. I'm just gonna pick a spot. And to start, you're gonna start by going through the back side of the card, like this. You're gonna go up, you're gonna pull your embroidery floss almost all the way through, but not quite, leaving a loop in the back. Then you're gonna go through your next hole. And when you come back through the back side, bring that needle through that loop. See that knot? There you go. All right. That's your flat knot. Okay, now we're ready for step 7. This is when you're gonna start your back stitch. So this is when it could get a little complicated, but I promise if you just keep watching, you'll catch on. So there's 2 steps to the back stitch. The first step is your needle right now is on the back side of your card. You need to bring this needle up into the next hole. Bring it all the way up. Now you see this blank spot here? We need to take our needle and go back and fill that line in. That's the second step. So now we're going back down and we went back and we filled in that line. Now we're back on this back. We're at the back of the card again. We need to go through the next hole. And then we've got to go back again and fill that line. That's our back stitch. All right, and then we go to the next hole, and this is back stitch, guys. It's so easy. And I didn't put many holes in this card, so I could show you guys the running back stitch and show you also what to do if you run out of thread on a card. So I'm gonna run out of thread in just a second. So I'm gonna show you how I tie off knots to finish up the thread. 1 second, we'll do that after this end of this back stitch here. So this is what I do. So I don't have a lot of thread left. So what I do is I come to the back of this, and to tie off, all I do is I kind of will pick a random string. I'll come back through and I'll make a knot. It's pretty easy. That's all I do. I make a knot and I tie it, and it's pretty small, so nobody really sees it, so it's not too ugly. And so then you can still fold your card over and that knot doesn't cause a huge bump. And then to get started again, to finish my star, I would just start again with that flat knot and end it just the way I just did right there. Now that I've finished embroidering my card, I am going to take my eraser and clean up these pencil lines, and I might take some crayons and color those in and fold this over, and now I have a really cool card that I embroidered myself. Today I've shown you how to embroider a basic backstitch on greeting cards. With a little bit more practice, you can start working on curves that take a little bit more time. For more resources, check out the links on the activity lesson plan. This has been an arts and crafts lesson with Jennifer Hancock from Christian County 4-H in Southwest Missouri. As always, to make the best better.